Hi there, this is Grant Loves Books. My name is Grant. Today we are talking about Kafka on the Shore. 6 years ago I read Norwegian Wood and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. 2 years ago I read The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle and I thought it was poor. And I said in 2023 I'm going to read Kafka on the Shore and I'm going to make my final decision as to whether I think Haruki Murakami is a great writer or not. To even stoke my enthusiasm further, a few weeks ago, the Guardian newspaper published an article talking about the masterpiece, link below, is Kafka on the Shore, the masterpiece. So I thought, well, this is really going to be something. Let's talk about the plot. Kafka on the Shore. The novel is told in alternating chapters. Chapter 1 deals with Kafka Tamura, who is a 15-year-old boy, lives with his father alone because the mother ran away, taking an adopted daughter with her. And he has these bad feelings of animosity towards his father for unexplained reasons. We don't know why he hates his father or why he feels so alienated. I just assumed it was because he was a 15-year-old, and that's just how 15-year-olds view the world and their parents. They just hate things. But he does have an actual question in his mind. Why did my mother leave? Why did my mother take my stepsister or my adopted sister, and why didn't she take me? So he has a grudge and he's going to run away. He doesn't even know where he's going. He just has a feeling that I want to go in this direction to this prefecture. And there's quite a lot of information about how he likes to do bodybuilding. No comment for now. The alternate chapters are about Mr. Nakata. And we learn in 1944 or 1945, when Japan was occupied by the American army, Mr. Nakata was a schoolboy and he was taken with his class out into the woods to forage for mushrooms, edible mushrooms, because food was very scarce at that time. I enjoy that. I thought that was a good bit of realism. And then we get some fantasy. All of the children fell into a coma for 1 hour. This is all very mysterious and it is never explained. All 15 of the school children just fall onto the ground limp, only to wake up 2 hours later with no memory of this occurrence, except for Mr. Nakata, who doesn't wake up for 3 weeks or 3 months. He's in a coma, and when he does wake up, he has no memory of his past life, cannot read, he cannot do even the basic mathematics. He wakes up as a simpleton. His brain is just stuck. His parents, well, we learn, his father beat him for being such a hindrance on the family. His parents gave all his love to his siblings. Yeah, tragedy, tragedy. However, he can speak to cats, which is a weird kind of a trade-off. And we learn that Mr. Nakata, he gets a government subsidy. He lives in some government-supplied housing for people with special disabilities. He makes a little bit of spare money on the side, finding people's lost cats, and he's quite good at this because he can speak to cats. The novel is quite exciting because we get these two parallel stories, which we soon see that they are very intricately connected. The novel moves forward at a very fast and exciting pace towards the exciting conclusion. I don't want to give anything about the novel away because I really did enjoy reading this novel. I have to add the caveat that the two previous novels I read before this one were very boring and very dry. So when I got to this novel that was filled with action, I was very happy to read it. However, I didn't feel it was a very well-written novel. And I mean that in the way that the sentences and the metaphors and the imagery I thought were quite inadequate. The story and the construction of the novel were excellent. I will say that. So I somewhat feel that I enjoyed this novel because I had read some pretty slow-going realistic literature, and it was a pleasure for me to read this fast-paced mystery fantasy story. Like, the more fantastic elements that were added, the less I enjoyed it, because I cannot enjoy fantasy. I love literature because I feel that I have an empathy with the characters, because these characters seem to live in the same reality that I live in. Some of the novels I read, the characters are like people that I know. Honoré de Balzac, I feel that his characters are like people who live in the same building that I live in. I know them so well. So when Kafka on the Shore gets to a place where there seems to be this little time hiccup where one character is living at a certain time and another character is living at an alternate time, and somehow these timelines need to be tied together. That is a bridge too far. Like, I cannot go along with you here. We're talking about a 15-year-old boy who seems to be having sex with a 42-year-old woman who may in fact be a 15-year-old ghost, or she is a 15-year-old ghost, but that's her ghost, which is frozen at the age of 15, but now she is 42 years old, and they're fucking. I can't go along with that. Like, it's too metaphysical here. I had just read Oblomov, which is so slow-paced and just dreadful. And it was a pleasure to read this book. I will say that if you are someone who is needing some fantasy, or it's almost literature, a compelling story, this parallel telling of the story, like, it was exciting. Kafka Tamura, something happens, kind of a cliffhanger. I'd like to hear more of that, but we don't get that, and now we get Mr. Nakata. But then something happens over here on this side of the story, and that's good now, and then we go back over here. So that little game, that's fantastic, and I think it is extremely well told, but it is very much not well written.
Choko Pati,
Final judgment on Murakami is that he's a very popular writer, but he's not a very literary writer. Except for Norwegian Wood, I do not think Murakami is literature. Now, a lot of people have said to me, why do you need to have such a stick up your ass about what is literature and what is not? Like, can't you just read it and enjoy it? I think it is very important to have decisions made about what is literature and what is not. It's always debatable. Look, I mean, it's not cast in stone. Just because I say it doesn't mean that it is. When, like, Harold Bloom says this is literature and this is not, he has a lot of credibility, but he might make mistakes as well. But I think it is very important, because if your goal in life is to read the greatest literature you can, and personally that is my goal. It might seem like a goofy goal to you, it might seem meaningless, but that's my goal. And I'm willing to bet my life on it, that I think it is worthwhile. Harold Bloom said that if you have 60 years of reading, in my own case, I started reading good literature when I was 19, and if I have 60 years, that's 79. 60 years might seem long, but the more you have, the fewer it seems. And maybe you read 5 novels a year. 60 years, that's 300 novels. That is not a huge amount. Say you read 10 a year, that's 600 novels. Congratulations, that's wonderful. It's still so many more. You read 20 novels a year because you're fanatical. 1,200 novels in your life. In your life, that's all that you will ever read. 1,200 great novels. From beginning to end of your existence, that is as many great novels as you can read, because you'll be fucking dead. So make those novels the best. Don't waste your time with the shit. Your life is short. And if you can only read 5 novels a year, make them the best that they can be. I'm talking to those people who really want the best of the best. Kafka on the Shore is not. Like, if you think that that is literature because you've been convinced and people have told you how great it is, nah. And that Guardian article is fucking wrong. It is not a masterpiece. It's almost there. It's almost literature, except that it's got so many faults. Why is Kafka on the Shore not literature? It's because Murakami is a very bad writer. Now, I wondered, like, maybe it's just his translator, but that cannot be true, because I've read a lot of Japanese literature, and I know that the Japanese have a wealth of excellent translators. This year, I read the Tanizaki sisters, and that novel, it moved my heart. Is that the writer or is that the translator? Of course, it's both. It's mostly the writer, but it's also the translator's amazing ability. And I know it's not the translator. It cannot be. All right, what are all these notes? These notes are all of the examples that I'm going to give you right now. This video is going to be fucking long and tedious. These notes are all of the examples of bad writing. And these are just the notes that I want to highlight. Really, I want to hammer the nails into Murakami's coffin, because he is not literature. It is not literature when you write using these sentences and phrases. Okay, here we go. Chapter 1, page 7. This is not so much bad writing, but it's just some really weird product placement. I think about taking my father's favorite Sea Dweller Oyster Rolex. It's a beautiful watch, but something flashy will only attract attention. There's a 15-year-old boy running away. My cheap plastic Casio watch with an alarm and stopwatch will do just fine and might actually be more useful. Reluctantly, I return the Rolex to its drawer. The majority of my complaint is that there are so many paragraphs that could be just taken out. It could go from one sentence to the next without nothing lost if that paragraph were removed. Here's the last sentence of the previous paragraph. I also take a sturdy, bright pocket flashlight out of a drawer, plus sky blue Revo sunglasses to disguise my age. Skip. From the back of another drawer, I take out a photo of me and my older sister. You see, nothing was lost there by removing that, oh, my father's special weird Rolex watch. I don't know if that's product placement, which is a crime in itself, and it's disgusting, and you should be ashamed of yourself, Murakami. You're not making enough money from your books. You need to get money from Rolex as well. It adds nothing, and it is completely extraneous. Oh, god damn, this video is going to be 5 hours long. Kafka meets a girl on the bus. I have no idea, she says. She cranes her neck and sweeps the place with her eyes. Her earrings jingle back and forth like two precarious pieces of ripe fruit ready to fall. So unnecessary, all of that. You're hanging these ornaments on the Christmas tree, man. Go fuck yourself with those like two pieces of ripe fruit waiting to fall. Jingle, 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 jingle. All right, so much is made about Kafka Tamura and his bodybuilding training. I don't know why, because I don't think it really comes into play at any point during the novel. Like, I don't think there's any particular reason for all of this, because in the first, 100 pages, a lot of time and words and paragraphs are given to this young man's bodybuilding regime, and nothing comes of it. I just think that was something that was put in, like, oh yeah, that'll probably lead somewhere. And then just like, that didn't go anywhere. But, it's too late to take it out now. I start on my circuit training with Prince blasting away on my Walkman. I put in a good hour of training, make my usual round of the 7 machines. I thought for sure a gym in such a small town would be full of dated machines. But these are the latest models with the metallic smell of brand new steel. The first round I do with light weights and then increase the weights for the second circuit. I know exactly how much weight and how many reps work for me. Pretty soon I start to sweat and stop every once in a while to take a swig from the bottle and a bite out of a lemon I bought on the way over. Is that lemon supposed to be character development? You're biting a lemon? And it goes on. Once I finish training, I take a hot shower using the soap and shampoo I've brought along. I do a good job washing my cock, not too many years out of its foreskin, and under my arms, balls, and butt. I weigh myself and flex my muscles a bit in front of the mirror. Like, are you a child? Are you a fucking infant? All right, come on, let's go on, because there's a lot of this shit. Same thing, same character. Except for a few minor details, I spend the next 7 days in the same way. Except for Monday, of course, when the library is closed and I spend the day at a big public library. The alarm clock gets me up at 6:30 every morning. I gulp down the hotel's pseudo-breakfast. If the chestnut-haired girl's behind the front desk, I give her a little wave. She always nods and repays me with a smile. I think she likes me, and I kind of like her too. Beautiful writing, beautiful writing. Oh my God. Chestnut-haired girl smiles and likes me too. Now, here we get one of the chapters with Mr. Nakata. This is kind of a weird little thing. But man, I'm gonna drink a fucking case of beer while I'm reading this fucking shit. Kafka Tamura's chapters are written in the first person. He writes it in I. Like as I was just saying, I wash my cock and my butt. And Mr. Nakata's chapters are written in the third person. All right, so remember that. And the third person should be this disinterested, this happened, this character went over here, he put money into the vending machine. Like it's that, he did this, she did this, they met, and they flew off to Mars. Third person perspective. The policeman dropped his pen on the desk and stared open mouth at the old man. For a moment, he was speechless. What the? And that's in there. Like there. And that what the is the third person narrative saying that. That is Murakami putting that in there. What the? Is that appropriate in literature? Like for the author just to have that in the text? You would say that the police officer was flabbergasted. The police officer was so amazed that he pissed in his pants. But you don't write, what the? That is some lowbrow television sitcom with a laugh track bullshit right there. Lots more. All right, how about this for some dialogue? Another scene with Mr. Nakata. Mr. Nakata goes and he sees this like Japanese biker gang kicking the shit out of some guy on the floor. How about this for some dialogue? This is real Japanese dialogue here. As Nakata approached, third person, don't forget, tapping the asphalt surface with the tip of his umbrella, a couple of the men turned around and glared at him. They relaxed when they saw it was just some harmless old man. Why don't you beat it, Pops? One of them growled. I'll bet that's a very common Japanese motorcycle gangster expression. Why don't you beat it, Pops? He growled. That's some realistic dialogue. This is some absolute Stephen King bullshit right here. I'm just going to show it to you. This is how the chapter ends. You tell me that's not some Stephen King shit. And that night I saw a ghost and I fucked it. One of the things about literature is that it should not contain cliches. Even very light cliches, you should really try to avoid them. You know, the joke that writers like to tell is that you should avoid cliches like the plague. Wah, wah. Yeah, I know. Really and sincerely, you should try to remove all of the cliches because they're just such a... It's like getting hit in the head with a beanbag. Pow! Fuck, that takes me right out of the story, your cliche. Hoshino suddenly wondered how Nakata was doing. Third person. Probably still sound asleep. All right, this is the character thinking to himself. It's like the term sound asleep was invented just to describe him. Once he falls asleep, that's all she wrote. What kind of dreams does he have, though, during those record-breaking sleeps? Hoshino couldn't imagine. Like we've kind of shifted there from third person to this character having his internal thoughts. I guess that's okay, but that's all she wrote? You tell me this is literature. I think that is just absolute bullshit to have that. That's all she wrote. Is that what they say in Japanese? People in Japan like, oh, he killed himself. Yeah, I guess that's all she wrote. There's not a more interesting, colorful phrase in Japan than that. Okay, this is really a confusing one. So, as I said, the Kafka Tamura chapters are told in the first person. So I walk her to the shore, we cut through a pine forest and walk down to the sandy beach. All right, first person. I did this, we did this. All right, he's telling the story. But for some reason on page 299, when he starts to have sex with this woman, it shifts into the second person perspective. Second person is rarely used because it is extremely uncomfortable and it just doesn't work very well. And for whatever reason, we switch from the first person to the second person when he's gonna do some fucking. I put my arm around her. You put your arm around her. She leans against you, and a long spell of time passes. Did you know I did this exact same thing a long time ago, right in the same spot? I know. You tell her. How do you know that? And looks you in the eyes. What is the point of that? I know Murakami is wildly famous and has a legion of fans, and I'm sure they're going to come out of the woodwork to crucify me and say, well, you're just not catching the symbolism of that. But it's fucking up the ass, so fucking lame. I'm using a lot of profanity in this video. First person, suddenly second person. God, I studied my grammar. And it happens twice in the novel for no apparent reason. And like all the dimwits can say, oh, well, you know, because of this artistic little thing. No, he just suddenly, when the character, Kafka, is gonna fuck, suddenly the narrative shifts to the second person, where now it's you. Together, you walk along the beach back to the library. You turn off the light in your room. Fuck off, you prick. We're getting to page 333 here of a 467-page book. And it's almost like the Murakami is just getting tired. Like he just doesn't give a shit anymore because this is so fucking awful, this. Hands on the steering wheel, Oshima shakes his head a couple of times. And he says this, it's in a really strange turn of events. It started out weird, and it's getting even weirder as it goes along. Impossible to predict what'll happen next. One thing's for sure, though. Everything seems to be converging right here. The old man's path and yours are bound to cross. You know, there's this thing that's called on the nose. It's so blatant that it's just, like, you can't write like that because it's just too obvious what you're writing. That might be the worst dialogue I've ever read in even so-called literature in my life. Really strange turn of events. It started out at weird and it's getting weirder as it goes along. Impossible to predict what's next. One thing's for sure though, everything seems to be converging right here. Now, cliches are very bad, but when you build up to a cliche, that is absolutely, someone needs to tell him that he can't write like this anymore because it's too painful with someone with a bit of literary sensibilities. Are you saying she's lost the will to live? I think so. Lost the will to go on living. Do you think she's going to kill herself? No, I don't, Oshima replies. It's just that very quietly, very steadily, she's heading toward death, or else death is heading toward her. The next line just, it goes straight through my heart. Like a train heading toward the station. Something like that, Oshima said and stopped, his lips taut. Do you mean death is approaching her like a cat going towards its litter box? Do you mean that death is approaching her like a baby's mouth going for the mother's nipple? Another example of, you remember that little bit a while ago I said, oh, you know, that what the? You know, how that's inappropriate for a writer to add that? Maybe now that he's dead, he's gone on to another world where he's become normal Nakata and can read. As long as he was in this world, though, he could never read. In fact, his final act on Earth was quite the opposite, burning up writing, sending all those words on the pages off into the void. Kind of ironic when you think about it. Haruki Murakami. As a writer, you should not write. That's kind of ironic. If you were a good writer, you would think that your audience would be able to put that together in their brains and they would be the ones to say, isn't that ironic? You don't do that for them. You, as a writer, do not say, boy, wasn't that an ironic thing that I just wrote a few pages ago? You expect the audience to do that if you were a proper writer, and you are not. 2 more only, and then we'll put it out of its misery. 2 more on the exact same page. Oh, fucking hell, this is brutal. Is the battery still okay? I think it was the first example where I said that if things can be removed that are extraneous, they should be removed because all they do is just clog up your story with unnecessary, you know, like little distractions. Like, we're going to go over there. Oh, no, we're not going to go over there. Oh, we're going to go over there. Oh, wait a minute. We don't need to go over there. You're dragging the audience's attention off in a line which is aborted. And you don't need to drag them off there because hopefully your editor has some sense and can say, no, this paragraph is completely unnecessary. And this is like the ultimate I've ever seen in an unnecessary paragraph where I think the author even realizes it's unnecessary because he starts off in a direction and then says, oh, wait a minute. No. That's not right. For God knows whatever reason, he still left it in the text. So Oshima, who I've mentioned a couple of times, he's gathering together this little arsenal to fight a monster. No shit. And he's finding all of the knives in the apartment because, you know, he's been warned that a monster's coming. And we get this paragraph of fucking nothing. But Murakami realizes it midway through and still keeps it in there. The kitchen only had a rudimentary assortment of pots and pans, but quite a collection of knives. In addition, he selected a large, hefty hammer and some nylon rope. An ice pick rounded out his arsenal. Here we go. Here's where a nice automatic rifle would come in handy, he thought, as he rummaged around the kitchen. He had been trained to shoot automatic rifles in the SDF and was a decent marksman. Not that he expected to find a rifle in a cupboard somewhere. If anybody ever shot off an automatic rifle in a quiet neighborhood like this, there'd be hell to pay. You know, the hell to pay is already a cliche on another level. But it's just that, it's like Murakami's wondering, well, what if my character found a pistol and then thinking, no, I don't think that would be realistic to have a pistol in this situation. It's like he's thinking and writing at the same time, and then he talks himself out of it. He just must be such a narcissist that he just feels that that paragraph was so excellent that it needs to remain in the text, even though it gives nothing. Like, listen, I'll omit the paragraph. In addition, he selected a large hefty hammer with some nylon rope, and an ice pick rounded out his arsenal. Skip. He laid all of his weapons down on the living room table. You see, nothing is lost by omitting that in any way. Like, that's just your little jerk off. What if he found a pistol? Doesn't find a pistol. That doesn't work. And you just decide to leave it in there. Last example, for God's sake. This is on page 450. All right, let's count the cliches. The stone maintained a stony silence. Stony silence. Well, what can you do, right? Yeah, I think that's a cliche. I'm the one who chose this path, and I've got to see it through to the end. Kind of hard to imagine what repulsive thing's gonna pop out, the monster. But I'm okay with that. Got to give it my best shot. Life's short, and I've had some good times. Toro said this is a 1 in a million chance. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad to go out in a blaze of glory. Is that 10 or 9? At least try to win one for the old guy, Mr. Nakata. That's 10. That is 10 hard-boiled, cold finger up the ass cliches right there. Oh, sorry, there's one last one. The Stones' silent vigil continued. Silent vigil. Stony silence. What can you do? Chose this path. See it through to the end. Give it a best shot. Life's short. Had some good time. 1 in a million chance. Blaze of glory. Hey, win one for the old guy. Ooh, silent vigil. I read that and I kind of thought Murakami hates his readers to write like that. Like, that is just abysmal writing. And I seriously do not think we can blame the translator, because there are just examples of bad writing from beginning to end. It's awful. It's fucking horrendous. All right, for younger readers who are not aware of how violently cliches insult your artistic temperament, it would be like your favorite band coming out and they're playing their alternative music or their heavy metal music or whatever kind of music they're playing, and all of a sudden in the middle of the concert they started playing Happy Birthday. That's what a cliche is. You revert to the obvious, and you revert to it just triggers the obvious reaction. Stony silence. Win one for the old guy. Blaze of glory. Against what art is. Art is the original. That is the key definition of art. It is an original concept. I will say that the plot, the story, has a great deal of originality. It's just that the construction of the novel is weak and childishly written. Childish. It's really quite a shame because, as I said, I'm not going to deny that I enjoyed the book. I was in the mood for something light and fast-paced, even in a mood for something fun. The cliches, it was like just someone kind of like hammering a small little nail into one of my ribs, like, all right, blaze of glory. Tick! Oh, fuck! God, why'd you have to do that? And those are just the highlights of the bad writing. There are examples of bad writing on every page. Sincerely, every page, I feel. All right, that's really enough. I know I went on and on and on. It's just that I think literature is something absolutely precious, and I think it really deserves someone to say, this is literature and this is not. And we can argue and we can debate and we can have our discussions, and that is wonderful to have those kind of discussions. It's just that I feel that this novel transgresses way too far into the pulp genre fiction. Anyone with any literary sense would not classify that as literature. And the guy who wrote that in The Guardian, I'm going to send this video to you if I can, because man, you are so fucking mistaken talking about this as a masterpiece. To call this a masterpiece is to call yourself an absolute fool wearing a dunce's cap. I'm sorry, I know that's quite rude to, you know, a stranger who has the great good fortune to be writing for The Guardian, but you've got no taste in literature to think this is a masterpiece. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. God damn, I've got to stop the video right now because it's like 50 minutes long. Jesus Christ. Thank you for watching. Support the channel with money and clicks and likes and all the stuff, and god damn it, don't read the book. It's a piece of shit.
ご機嫌です。ご機嫌です。ご機嫌です。みんなが50分ロボペンのフィッツリンク。あれ。
Even though, sorry, this is already a bit of a grudge. As I said, like one chapter is Kafka Tamura, the next chapter is Mr. Nakata. But we start off with interviews with Mr. Nakata's old grade school teacher, and she's talking about what happened, the events of that day. Like what happened, she took the children out to this forest and she asked them to pick mushrooms because it was the end of the Second World War and Japanese people didn't have enough to eat, and if the children could find some edible mushrooms, that would really complement their diet. Quite good. But then, for I don't know what reason, Murakami decides to have this teacher confess this really weird sexual dream and the repercussions of it and how it might maybe have influenced Mr. Nakata and his, I don't know, catalepsy. And again, that's never explained. I think it's the 4th or 6th chapter of the novel, and it's this, like this woman is writing, like, oh, I had this really weird sexual dream. Let me tell you all about it. And then what happened because of this dream, again, like that just, that's it. It's like he wrote this dream chapter for a magazine and they didn't accept it. And then he decided, well, you know, what am I going to do with this writing? Oh, I'll just stick it in over here into this novel. Okay, anyway, I'm sorry. That's big digression. All right. But on the plus side, he could talk to cats. It's totally stupid, I know, but like when it comes to audience manipulation, think how much an audience is gonna love a character who can talk to cats. I mean, it's so manipulative. Oh, look, here comes a calico. Oh, hello, Mr. Calico. Oh, hello, Mr. Nakata. It's like selling candy to children. Like, it's such an easy manipulation. Anyway, oh, I said I wouldn't give my opinion. I'm drunk already, by the way. All right, come on. Let's start over.